Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducksy Gaming. I thought I'd bring a video out on how to farm efficiently in Path of Exile, as it's been something that I've been really bad at in 3.16, and gradually over the leagues, as you don't concentrate on this, it tends to get worse and worse and worse. Now it seems like some of the things I'm going to go through in this video will be really obvious, but it's really easy to fall out of good habits and into bad ones, and it massively affects how much currency you can make. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a method of making currency and go through all the steps to get in as much money as possible out of your selected farming method. Essentially, the quicker and more efficiently you do the content, the better your hourly income will be. So the first thing we need to do is choose a method and stick with it for the entire session. Doesn't matter whether it's an hour session, 2 hours, 3 hours, a whole day. And what this does is it allows us to prepare for our session because we know what we're going to need. We know roughly how many maps we're going to need. We're going to know what sextants and what scouts we need. And it allows us to prepare everything in advance. So that would be step one. And that would be preparing all your maps. So I've picked my method of farming, and that's going to be magic find towers. So what I'll do is go over to my stash tab and we'll start preparing what we need. So I've already prepped this tab, but basically all I've done is took all my T3 towers, dumped them in a tab along with scours, alks, sextants, and then, chisels and varlorbs, and then my sextants. So what I've done before I've sorted the maps out into this order is I've chiseled every single map. I've then alked them, and I'm looking for 24% pack size or beyond. If any of those are on it, I'm keeping the map. If any aren't, I'm then scouring again, alking them again until I get the pack size I want or I get beyond. Then what I'm doing is varling every single map that I've got, checking that they're still all runnable, and then we'll put them in an order that allows me to run them quickly and efficiently. These ones down here are un-ID'd. The reason I've put these aside is there is a sextant that you can use that gives you extra quantity in un-ID'd maps. So I'm going to keep these aside to run them when I get the sextant. I've got one up on the left, which is Ellie Reflect, because one of them rolled into Ellie Reflect. I can't run that. But again, there's a sextant that allows me to ignore reflected damage. So once I get that sextant, I'll run that map. If I don't get it, it will just stay aside for another farming session. What I'm doing once I've checked my maps is any that don't meet the pack size I'm looking for, which is 24%. It might be Uvala 28% one and it turns into a really bad map that's like 20%. I'm then putting it into my Scourge, and then I'll use that as a Scourge map. Obviously, you might get some that turn into a different tier. They might go into a tier 4. So I'm just dumping those. I don't need a tier 4 map. So I'm not even putting it in my stash tab. I'm just discarding them. And then I'm left with the maps I want to run this session. Alongside that, you want a dump tab to put everything in for when you're farming. This makes it nice and quick and easy. So this is what my map tab looks like. Now you might want to run some scarabs along with that. If you do, again, I get these prepared. So if we go into scarabs, let's say I was running expedition and we wanted to run expedition scarabs. We'll then go back to our towers, and then I will just drop these in here so that I know I need to run them on every map. And what you can do is you can load these up into your map device, and it will just take one every time you activate a map. So if you were running, let's say, sacrifice fragments and scarabs, you could load them all in here, obviously leaving room for your map. And every time you activate a map, it will just use one of the items that are in there of each. The only thing you need to be careful of is when you do Conqueror maps, it's a different window that Zana brings up for maps and isn't the same as the map device. So if you put them all in there, you won't see them again until you do another Conqueror map. So when you activate the Conqueror maps, I'll just make sure you have one of each in there. And that's kind of what I'm doing to set up my session. I'm getting all my maps ready so that I can basically go into a map, farm it, come out, dump all of my loot, go into my tab, takes my net map and my sextant, scarabs, whatever I want, and then just go. I don't have to have downtime in between maps like, chiseling, alking, setting up my maps, checking what scarabs and sextants I've got. It's all ready to go. So even if it means you have to buy stuff before your map session, like you're slightly low on sextant, so you want to buy some, do it beforehand. It's much quicker. So next thing I want to do is just cover two tools that I think are really helpful to monitor your mapping speed and your currency. The first one is Mapwatch, which you can just Google and there'll be a link to their GitHub page. Essentially what this does is it runs while you're playing the game, and it tells you how long you're in a map and then how long you're in town, and it gives you the percentage you're in town. Now ignore this because I've been doing lots of stuff aside from playing the game, so the percentages are all over the place. It also tells you what league mechanic you find in a map. And here is what it tells you. And it measures between when you enter a map until you enter the next one. So here it will say you were 12 minutes 57, you were 7 minutes 13 in the map, and then you were 5 minutes 44 in town, and you use one portal. And it will tell you that 44% of your time for this map was actually spent in town. And obviously the lower you can get your town percentage, it means the quicker you're completing maps and the more currency you're going to make. It's a really, really useful tool to use. I recommend people look at it. If they're struggling to understand why they might not be making as much money as other people, this is a great tool to have a look at. And then the next thing to look at is a tool called Exilence Next. Now, I was never a massive fan of this in the past because I felt it inflated a lot of the stuff that you might get in your stash tab. And YouTubers were definitely using it to their advantage when they were doing like, oh, make 10x an hour doing this. And then you look at their Exilence Next and loads of it is like white, yellow, and red maps that would never sell. Essentially what this does is it snapshots your stash tab. And all you do is you'd go create a profile, you choose what league you want to go in, so Scourge, and then you select the stash tabs you want to do. So say you wanted to look how much currency you've got in terms of raw results. If you sold everything, you can go here, create profile, take snapshot, and then it'll tell you what your currency tab is worth. So if we change that into results, it's saying that if I sold everything in my currency tab, I would have 50x. So what you can do is use this for your farming. So I've got my Magic Find stash tab here. I'll dump everything in and then it will price everything up for me and tell me what it's worth. Obviously, a lot of the stuff you probably might not be able to sell, like fossils. Some of the lower ones can be difficult unless you've got a huge bulk of them. So take it with a pinch of salt. It is what your stuff is worth, but whether you could sell it all is another matter. But it gives you a really good idea of what you're making per hour when you're farming. The other thing it does is it will highlight anything that you've picked up that you might not realize is worth money, like divination cards, for example. Obviously, most people know the nurse is worth money, but it shows at the top because that's the highest item net worth that I've got. So it's telling me that nurse is 203 chaos. So then at least you know you can go and price check that properly and put it up for sale. And that's it. It seems like a lot of effort for prep, but this then allows you to have a really, really comfortable, easy, and quick mapping session. So all you would do, you would take a map and any sextants and stuff out, put it in, run it, use your dump tab. And I put myself in Do Not Disturb when I'm running content, unless I've got some big ticket items up for sale, like for 1x or more. Because I don't want to have to leave maps to trade, because it can make a big dent in the money that you're making. And that's the reason we use the dump tab. Is what we're going to do is do all of our maps, complete every single map. Then at the end, we're going to go into our dump tab and we're then going to sort out and price our loot. So once you've gone through, taking the stuff out that you actually want to keep, you'll price everything up, put it in a sale tab. And what I would normally do is price them competitively. So this, for example, these sell for 20C. However, if I wanted to just sell it, price it for 19, you'll get a whisper within 5 minutes. Same for like this watchstone. There's a lot for sale for 15. If I just dropped it for 14 or 13, I'm going to sell it. So what I'll do is price everything to aim to sell it within an hour. And then I'll use the end of my session to analyze my current session and prep the next one. So firstly, I'll look at the session. How much did I make an hour? Were there any big drops that might skew the figures? Did I enjoy it? And would I want to do it again? If the answers are yes, you enjoyed it, and yes, you want to do it again, this is the best time to prep your next session, because you can sell all your items at the same time. The goal being, I'll spend half an hour prepping the next farming session, which could be, tomorrow, the next day, next week, whenever it is. And hopefully by the time of prepping that, I've sold everything that I wanted to sell. And that's kind of what I do. And I have been doing for the past few days. And I've noticed a massive difference. Like there's days when I wasn't doing this, when I would maybe only make 2 or 3x in a day. And I might be playing for like 3 or 4 hours. Because I just wasn't prepping maps. I was just running things willy-nilly. I was spending loads of downtime in hideout. Whereas the last couple of days where I've set sessions up like this, I've easily made sort of 15, 20, 25x in a day. And I don't think it's to do with the content I'm doing. I think it's because I'm playing efficiently. And that's kind of how I go about making currency and running maps. Really basic video, but I think it might help some people out. Certainly help me out to revisit it. That's it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Take care and see you all in the next video.